Rema's Raves and Roses. Carry
Rema.
front, carry back.
It's a good album. It's a good album.
Are you sure? Just give us a brief background of Rema.
Rema story. So, did you guys see like a video some weeks ago some weeks before the album dropped, where he was freestyling to Gucci Gang on Instagram? So that was the video that the Prince saw that made him go to Diddy, sign him. You would understand the reasons why the Prince signed him. Fantastic vocals, breath control, fantastic, great technique. He found 3 pockets on that beat, the Gucci Gang beat. Like it was, at some point it felt like it was a rapper, like it was song rapping. At some point it felt like it was singing. At some point it just felt like it was just flowing. Nobody knew how to describe it. It was good looking, great jawline, right? Great hair, dressed properly, looked athletic. It was a perfect artist, like the perfect pop star, and it was smiling. So a great smile too, right? And it was sitting on the shotgun seat of a car. Basically, if I was the Prince, if I was the one that saw the video and I had the resources to sign an artist, 1000% I'm signing. So he came in, underwent artist development with people like Crayon and some other people in the house, worked extensively. At some events you will see him, but you just don't know that it's him. Because right now, there are a lot of Maven artists that you go to events and see. Maybe the person is going to become the next Rema in 2 years, you don't know, right? But that's one of the fantastic things about that. Like, shout out to Maven for that. Released his debut EP, 4 songs. Why do maybe Connie and Iron Man? The good thing about those records is all fantastic records, none sound alike, expansive technique, incredible style, right? Even though he introduced the part that he does now, the quasi-Hindustani thing that he does, he introduced it on Iron Man and Connie. But even Connie and Iron Man, even though they are similar, they are not exactly the same. It didn't feel like it was repeating. The breath control was different, the styles were different, the way it was approaching. For example, Connie is different. Like, it's slightly different. And one thing was very apparent at the time. It was a product of one they call his grandfather. But Whiskey is a direct product of the Whiskey line, right? Because of the way it was delivering. And then it was also a product of the Prince. You could see the impact that the way the Prince delivers records. You also see it in Rema, right? Records like Connie and Iron Man had the Prince blue fingerprints all over them. Then it was no surprises when the movie blew up. Everybody loved the movie the moment you heard it. Then it dropped the second EP. The second EP was an offering to the Gen Z girls. The parts that really stuck out to me on that EP, I'll keep saying it. A record trying to trap out the submarine. It said, "Take off my shoes, spin and walk on water so I cannot be wrong." But I'm like, how can an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old write that? That's crazy, right? 4 records, fantastic records. So we had 2 or 3 variations of Rema at the time. We had the trap Rema that became a thing later, who was carrying the teddy bears and sitting in the shotgun seat, freestyling. We had the pop Rema that was Dumebi, and then we had the Rema that was doing Hindustani, right? So Rema from Dumebi was probably the one that we saw on Lady. Rema from Hindustani was the one on Bad Commando, which was 3rd EP. Lady was on the 3rd EP as well, and some other, and Connie and Iron Man. So we saw a guy with range. Like, one of the best things about him was range. And then a little bit after the range, that was 3 EPs in 8 months. Everybody was like, nah, this is the guy. This is the guy. It wasn't just that alone, because after that, we saw a guy that we would go on interviews, sounds so intelligent, way beyond his age, like personality. I remember seeing him at Homecoming in 2019. Shout out to Died, I took the picture. The famous Rema picture where I was taking up the schemers, I was Died. Like, he came onto the stage, like a lot of people came with people that were the same height, they were all on ski masks, and then it just stopped. They told you to just stop. I said, yeah, my name is Rema. And then they started performing to me, they took up the ski mask, everybody went crazy. You understand? So there was a thing about him that, like, nobody in his generation that has that level of personality. Nobody. So everybody started bigging him up. There was a time that even Alter tried to claim him, even though that was some bullshit, but they gave it to him. Alter tried to claim him. Like everybody tried to say, because everybody knew he was the guy. Like the branding from Maybe, shout out to Maybe again. The branding was so on point. The way they rolled him out, personality, the music. Like it got to a point where he was carrying teddy bears. It got to a point where they organized something online where some girl won and then got to go on a date with Rema. Some of these things, right? So the brand and the music was so fantastic. But by 2020, we sort of started seeing Rema because he needed to become a pop star, right? So started seeing him go slightly a little one-dimensional in terms of style. Now, Ginger and Woman are not exactly the same thing, but there were similarities between how Rema attacked records from Ginger Woman, Bima, Ginger Woman, Peace of Mind, Bounce, Soundgasm, and even to Calm Down. Like, there was some form of uniformity to it. It felt like, okay, where is the guy with the range? Where is he? Why is it that it feels like you're doing the same thing over and over again? Those records were good. Some of them were hits. All of them were successful, but there was something was off. I mean, that might be expectation bias from us, but at the same time, you could understand why people were clamoring because it felt like, okay, we know you're going to come and do, but bro, where's the next thing? He addressed something on his album. He said, people said I only sing about woman. That wasn't a problem. Commercial music is very, in terms of themes and topics, very limited. There are only a handful of things you can talk about. You don't talk about women, you talk about drugs, talk about cars, talk about money, talk about partying. Bro, that it wasn't about that, it was just about the uniform one-dimensional way which it was addressing, attacking records. Like, breath control similar, ad-lib similar, infuse some breathing tones in there. Like, it was very, very one-dimensional. So a lot of people just got frustrated with that. And then, yeah, conversation around the album. And it didn't help that most people in the generation had also found success. Fireboy had released two albums, two incredibly successful albums. One of them a potential classic. Joe Biden released one. Maybe not, but he had some success with the album. So it was him. Like, okay, this guy that we said was going to be the focal point of his generation, where is the album?
What do you think the attitude was before the release of this album, considering his last EP?
It was mixed. One thing we can see about Rema, we have been able to see about Rema over the past 2 years is he's also developing a fan base. I mean, Fireboy has a fan base, but he doesn't have a name for them yet. Even if he has a name for them, they are not as vocal as Rema's fan base on social media. The Ravers, they are getting very toxic right now as well. You might want to look into that, maybe not Rema, to control them before they get out of hand so that you are not going to be threatening people online. If there's anybody that's going to be threatening people online in this generation, it's probably going to be Rema. So everybody needs to look into, they need to look into that. So the attitude then from a lot of people didn't know what to expect because it helped that Fresh on Nigga dropped before the album dropped. It helped. Like Fresh on Nigga was sort of, okay, this is the guy with the ring again. He's back. It might not be the biggest song, it might not be as big as Calm Down, but this was necessary. And it sort of helped down the tension and the expectation and the cynicism a little bit. But even overall, a lot of people, the expectation bias was still going to count against the album.
Do you think the success of Fireboy's albums
1,000%
affected this?
1,000%. 100%. Rema was larger than life. Rema had 3 EPs in 8 months, when Fireboy still had Jealous as his biggest record. What if I say was big? Was Jealous was the one that was out of here? Rema had 3 EPs in 8 months, bro. 3 in 8 months. First 8 months. Now, by the 8 months had passed when Fireboy dropped Laughter, Tears and Goosebumps. Nobody saw it coming. Let's not lie to ourselves. Nobody saw Laughter, Tears and Goosebumps coming. Less than a year later, I followed it up with Apollo, even though it was slightly premature. I followed it up with Apollo. Another really successful album. One album of the year at the head, even though that should have been Laughter, Tears and Goosebumps. But it did win it. Because it was that good an album. So it added to the pressure on the shoulders of Rema and it's led on. Especially after they had also dropped the Allstars album. It was also a good album. We named the Allstars album of the year last year because it was a fantastic album. And it's going to age really well. So yeah, 100%.
Okay. But this album has received some criticisms. Yeah. What do you think about them?
So a lot of the criticism that Rema's album received, a lot of them were about expectation bias. It's a lot of expectation bias. It's a lot of people that are looking through social media and seeing the hype. You know, when you go through, when you are going through social media. So the problem with social media is this. It's not the best place. If you're a music person, it's not the best place to judge our music. It's not the best way to judge and to judge the quality of music, because the loudest voice at that moment are going to be stans and psychophants. So you might not need to be on social media at that time. If you really want to judge the album, remove yourself from that place. Even if the album is good, it can lead to cynicism. On the day that album dropped, it was a bunch of noisemakers, stans, psychophants. So someone who was not seeing the quality, or someone who was cynical towards Rema initially, the cynicism was going to increase. Because it's probably going to, especially when you consider that album, most people, when they listen to that album, most non-stans, who are the logical ones, when you listen to the album initially, you are going to see a lot of the flaws. Like, ask anybody that likes the album. Initially, the first listen, the flaws, you are going to see all the flaws, like the same flaws I was complaining about. During the 2-year run that I was talking about with Rema, the one record that broke the mold was Dimensions. The record with Justice Kai also did well. Like, it was performing well on those features. But the problem was we didn't get enough of that. It was the same thing. One-dimensional flows, this, that, right? And then it didn't help that a lot of the songs on Rema's album, fantastic production across board, right? Like, you hear it, you pay attention. The progression will be good. Some of the hooks were kind of disappointing, right? For example, the record with Chris Brown, great build-up. It's probably going to be a successful album because of the status of Chris Brown as a stream monster and because of incredible promo. Already it's the most streamed record on the album on YouTube, right? By a mile, by a country mile. But when you listen to the hook of that record, it was kind of rough. If someone like me was in the studio, I would say, bro, you have to record that. That's very mediocre. And then you look at the hook of a record like Mara, for example, like, it felt like you get into a bag and just roll with it. And a lot of times, if you are listening for the first time, you can't not avoid those things, the one-dimensional flows here. That's why a lot of people are going to criticize the album. They're going to tell you that it's one-dimensional, it's monotonous, right? The flaws are there. Or you listen to a record like Mara, you listen to a record like Runaway. Even Runaway had so much potential. A lot of people are going to like Runaway, but when you listen to it, it feels imperfect. There are balance issues here and there. Maybe it's from the hook, maybe it's from the way it's flowing, whatever. You are going to see the issues there. So it's going to be very hard for people to avoid those things. But one thing a lot of us have to also remember is Rema can't change who he is. He can't change the way he sings, he can't change the way he delivers. And that's only one way to digest that album. It's just one.
But do you think the songwriting on this album was good or bad?
A lot of people are going to say, oh, this was ad-lib driven, a lot of blah, blah. Yeah, it was good songwriting. It wasn't, the songwriting was part of the problem, but it wasn't because the songwriting was scatterbrained. It wasn't because there was a lot of lambent, incoherent nonsense. You can follow the story. Even on Mara, you can follow the story it's telling on the verses. On Love and Ancestral, you can follow the story it's telling. On every other, on Calm Down, you can follow the story it's telling, right? It's not because of scatterbrained songwriting. It's because when the songwriting needed to hit a zenith, sometimes it didn't hit it. But you only see that as a flaw within the first few listens. That's the thing about the album.
All right, Motolani, do you think this album is good?
I think it's a good album. I think it's a good album. I really think so. I think it's a good album. I think it's a good album because I think, not that I think, it's a good album. If you can remove yourself from the expectation bias and also social media and what you think Rema is, you can go listen to the album and actually enjoy it. You take your time. The good thing about this album is every time, if you go and listen to it, the more you listen to the album, the more the flaws sort of seep out of the way. The more you realize that, okay, maybe it's not a flaw. Or the more you start to get acquainted with the flaws to a level where you start to enjoy it. Yes, people are going to argue that if you listen to something for long enough, there's a tendency that you're going to enjoy it. That's why people put a lot of songs in rotation, right? That's why, for example, there was a day, I've said this several times on this show, when Rude Boy dropped, Rihanna's Rude Boy, I didn't like it. Oh Nana, What's My Name, I didn't like it, right? Those two records, especially Rude Boy, there was a day my sister and I counted, my younger sister and I counted. MTV Bass slammed that song about 15 times, it's just 6 a.m. between 6 a.m. in the morning and 12. I loved it before that week ran out, right? I feel out. Like my soul, it gets my soul. You get. So the thing is, with this Rema, but this one is slightly different in the sense that it's a whole album. It's 16 tracks. Right? So it means that if you are still not going to like something, you are going to get weary at some point. But the moment you listen to this album, you settle down to listen to it, you start to appreciate the thought that went into it. You start to appreciate, for example, you start to see like the songwriting, the detail here and there. You start to, you enjoy, and the more you listen to it, the more you have new faves. For example, Hold Me was my favorite at the start, right? Then it shifted to Carry. Now it's Love. Do you understand? Some of the records I probably didn't like, you might listen to them again and say, that's a good record. Because there is a way, the guy is kind of spellbinding in a way, the more you listen to the album. You are still going to notice the flaws. It's not that you are going to say, oh, the flaws are not good. You are still going to notice them. But they just won't matter. There's something about it. They just won't matter again. It's a really good album. It's a good album. It might not be, because it's not a concept album, it might not be M2M great in terms of construction and perfection and A&R. It might not be that great, but it's a good album. For a debut, it's a good album. It's a good album.
So you say it's a good album, but what makes it good?
First things first, the production is fantastic. I've also spoken about the songwriting. The track listing is so smooth. Like, the detail and thought that went into the track listing. For example, you'll notice that this transition between Divine and Hold Me, fantastic. Sounded like a lot of smooth opening transitions from the opening two tracks on an album that was it's as good as any. I like, personally in my review, I likened it to Chloe and Haley for intro to Forgive Me. Or even Burna Boy, the intro to Alarm Clock. You can see, like, it's so smooth. The production just goes into each other. And the way Black killed that record, so good. Then the track list of the album, right? A lot of people are going to argue that the album comes in two parts. So Divine to before Are You There starts, then Are You There to the end. And then a lot of people are going to say, okay, it's the opening 9 tracks, then tracks 10 to 12, and then tracks 13 to the end. Like, you understand, like, whoever arranged the album, whoever put it into that sequence is so brilliant. Because you are going to listen to Calm Down, the detail between Soundgasm and Calm Down, the way he went into each other, because those records are so similar. And the way they looked at Divine as the opening track. Divine as the opening track was the perfect introduction to Rema. It told the story. The way his father was, the way his father died, the way his mother gave birth to him, and then the final track was Run Away. So there's a lot of detail on the album. That's one. Number 2, people are going to say, oh, it's a lot of women and sex. Maybe that's his brand, and that's fine. That's fine, because a lot of ladies like it, and if ladies love your music, you are good for life. That's just the truth. But there are also dividers on the album. For example, Divine told his story. Are You There? Talked about like Nigeria. When he said we go to Dorime, like the attitude of it's a social political charge record. The way the attitude of the average Nigerian to things in the country. So it's Dorime vibes and women and clubbing. He even said it on the album that, oh, everybody, if something happened for the country today, people will still go to the club that night. They killed someone in Abuja last night. People were in the club last night. So people are catching clues on social media today. Bro, it's the truth. So it's the reality of Nigeria presented. So even those tracks presented, not Rema, Divine, the boy. Divine, the person. Aside from that, there are lots of, in terms of like, that album is going to be judged on the amount of hits it produces. And right now, that record has around 7 new tracks that could be hits. 7. Hold Me. Some people like Joe. I don't like Joe. Some people like Dirty. I like it a little bit. I don't like it as much as people that really love it. But you can understand. Carry. Addicted could be an international hit if they put the Fantastic feature on it. Are You There? People are loving Are You There already. Someone was telling me, someone was telling me that at Hotbox the day the album dropped, they were slamming it back to back. A record like Love might not exactly become a single, but it's going to age really well. It's going to be like Sweet One from Middle Lagos. So the fact that album has that that number of good records, bro, come on, man. Come on. It's all good records. Like I said the other time, like significantly was women, sex, And the boy, I think the boy is really having sex.
So you think Rema and looking like that?
Oh yeah, they have really done well. I think they have done well significantly. Like for example, on the topic that you were talking about the other time, a lot of women have sex, but you also had dividers in the right places. Runaway, the record was sold, Divine, for example. Like, and even when he was talking about love, it was love. Like talking about love, like on the love track, talking about love. It was pure love in an alluring way. I shout out to them because they could have easily been crushed under the weight of expectation. They could have easily been crushed. You have to understand that because, bro, it must not have been easy. It must not have been easy to put this album together. Especially for him as well. He might be acting like, oh, I'm a hard guy. My brother, you are an artist. If you are releasing your debut album, especially after, if you are Rema and your story, considering your story, you are going to be under pressure. It might not be pressure of, oh my God, I didn't going to like it, but you're going to be under some pressure. That means you're going to be looking out for reactions and how people interpret it. So, bro, kudos to them. Kudos to them because this album is going to age well. It's going to age really well.
Nice. But do you think there are similarities between this album and Made in Lagos?
Oh, 100%. 100%. A lot of people don't want to listen to this. Made in Lagos, so when we say there are similarities between an album and Made in Lagos, we're not saying that people listen to them and then try to copy, right? Music, the impact of quality albums and great albums, right, is subconscious, especially when it comes at a time when there's a transition culturally, cultural shift. One day, Coast Mushi to more hits. Nice Gongwa saw Timaya's True Story, The Band's Entertainer. They were the four horsemen that started this contemporary Afro-pop thing, right? It wasn't like people were listening to them to create new albums, like Shantizu was listening to it, or Whiskey that say, okay, I want to recreate this album. No, it's subconscious. It's what works. Whiskey was at the intersection of that generation and the generation that was to come. Stylistically, a lot of people started singing like Whiskey. I remember speaking to Rexy. Rexy attended Tassoed, and he was saying that he went to uni at a time when everybody wanted to be like Whiskey. Every artist was doing ye. And listen to that album properly.
There were times I was wondering,
really?
I was starting to wonder if it was Whiskey.
Yes. It sounded like something that could have been made in Lagos. It's not like Rema was listening to it. No, number one, Rema was already a product of the Whiskey lineage already. And then Made in Lagos drops an album that's that big and impactful. It's going to mean that it's going to impact how people create albums. So over the last 2 years, there are albums that are going to really, two or three albums that are going to inspire how people create albums going forward. In terms of pop music, it's going to be Made in Lagos, TAT, Twice as Tall, Burna Boy Twice, so another place Carpe Diem. They will inspire a lot of the way people arrange albums, a lot of the way people create, a lot of the way people think. For example, the opening record on Divine, on Rema's album was Divine. Very personal record. The opening record on Made in Lagos was Reckless. Very personal record. Even the closing tracks, there are similarities. The way they were using, even on Whiskey's album, he was using a lot of instrumentation, but he had a preference for horns and all that. There were horns on this album as well, down. But where he didn't have horns, he had a lot of instrumentation, fantastic instrumentation, like chords, sonics, great sonic progression here and there, right? And then there were records that were kind of calling out for Whiskey feature, Imagine putting Whiskey on Hold Me remix. Or putting Whiskey on Oh My Baby Oh. If you put Whiskey on that, put Whiskey on Love. That's it.
So you think Made in Lagos has become important?
Oh yeah, it has. I just addressed it. I think 1000%. I think it has. Yes, it has. It's going to be. We're going to see way more things in the future, especially if he wins the Grammys.
So you think there's a Whiskey tree in Nigerian music?
Oh, 1000. There's a Whiskey tree. Yes, like I tweeted something like last year that a lot of people are literally trying to sound like him, and it's dangerous. Like Wande Cole is in terms of contemporary Nigerian pop music, Wande Cole is the like stylistically, technically, progressions, And the way people deliver record by delivery is one day cool. It's everybody, right? But in terms of like a lot of young kids, it's Wiz. And it's so dangerous because a lot of them want to be like him. And there can only be one. Rema that we're saying is from Wizkid's line. It's successful because it doesn't sound exactly like Wizkid. So yeah, there's a tree, 1000%.
There were a couple of features on this album, but interesting enough, we didn't have afrobeats features.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Rema addressed it 2 days ago. Let me read some of these things I said. It says, I know people might be like, quote, oh shit, why does Rema not have afrobeats artists on his album? I would say this, no feature on my album was based off, hey label, I need an artist or I need an international collab. No, nothing like that. Everything was organic. Every artist in my album is my friend. I don't really like to make music with you if you are not actually cool. I would not make music just to appease the fans, just to look like we are not fighting. No, bro, it has to be organic. No feature on my album was forced or like me trying to look intentional or cross boundaries. Nah, I already crossed that in 2019. Okay. So it's not really trying. It's not me really trying to like, oh shit, I need this feature. I need this feature to be Nah, bro. Every feature on my album is based on mutual respect, mutual friendship, close friendship. Like me and Chris Brown, we're at his house playing video games or basketball or whatever. Then we hopped in the studio and we're cool. Me and Lil Nas, we're cool. I make music with people I rock with, people I chill with, everybody, we're cool. But I will not force an Afrobeats feature if we are not cool. We have to chill to create bangers. I will not go into the studio to appease the fan base. I'll create music because I fuck with you and you fuck with me, you know. But the questions I have is, one, is Rema then saying that he's not cool with any Afrobeat artist? Or is he saying that he's not cool enough with any Afrobeat artist to collaborate with them? Two, in the past, has Rema only collaborated with Afrobeat artists and figures that he's been friends with? Only Rema can answer that. Three, does that also mean that Rema would rather be friends with international artists and is not comfortable asking them for features? Four, do you really have to be friends with people before you can collaborate with them? Very important, very interesting questions, Andy. Now, look at it critically. The number one thing, it's fine, especially if, as an artist, right? For example, Kanye West, when he was recording Donda, there were rumors that Kanye West would randomly send people out of the studio because of bad energy. Like, he thinks you had bad energy, so he will send them. So, creativity requires a certain state of mind. And if Rema says that he needs to be cool with people before he can make records with them, then that's his principle, that's his creative principle, and it's totally fine. It's totally fine, right? But, is Rema saying that he's not friends with any Afrobeat artist? Here's the thing. What I'm hearing is, he's friends with them, but we know, I work in this industry, so I know. Nigerian artists are very petty. If Rema were to ask some of them for features and some of them were bold enough to turn it down, they will tell it to everybody. And sometimes Rema is big enough now to not receive certain types of L's, right? That it doesn't need. He doesn't need certain types of L's. So he doesn't need to put himself in those places. But still, it's still about ego. Because at the end of the day, one of the hallmarks of a great A&R is knowing that sometimes I don't need to be friends with you to be able to make music with you. And Rema has gotten to a level where it's unlikely that anybody in this industry will turn down the Rema feature. It's very unlikely. Because, like I said, even though Fireboy is one that has released the classic album, Rema is the one that a lot of people still look at as, I think that's the guy. Burna Boy posted his album the day he dropped his album. Wizkid has posted Rema's music a few times. We all know Davido is a people person. Olamide is not going to turn down the Rema feature. That was still savage. So if those big four are not going to turn it down, who will turn it down? I know for a fact that Black Boys love Rema, like mad. So who? We have seen Fireboy and Rema collaborate for a brand in the studio. There are rumors that they have songs together. So where is it going to come from? The people that this album really means when you look at it, on their records, for example, on that Oroma Baby record, imagine putting Pato Rankin and Timaya on that record. Their records are needed like a Peruzzi intro, like a record like Love of Mara. Put Peruzzi in the opening 10 seconds and let him do a madness. There are records that needed like a techno feature. Not needed, but would have done better with the techno feature. Would have done better with the whiskey feature. Would have done better with the Patoranking or Timaya feature. Right? At the root of this is just artists are never going to admit it, but at the root of it is ego. Some of the ego is necessary. Like it's you being very cautious with your brand. Because when you get to a level, you want to be the one that gets asked for features, not you get asking people for features. But you also have to understand that one of the hallmarks of a great A&R is knowing that I don't have to be friends with you to collaborate with you. For example, B.O.B. and Ailey Williams, when they made Airplanes, they didn't meet each other throughout the recording. They never spoke. They never met each other. They never spoke at the video recording. They met each other like a year later when they were about to perform the record at the VMAs. That was the first time they met. Was the record a smash? Oh, absolutely. Do you think all the artists that have collaborated in history have been friends? Yes, it might be your principle, but as you grow older, as you get older, you realize that musical excellence and strategy sometimes can supersede your personal relationships or your demand for personal relationships. That's what I'm saying.
What do you make about Afro Raves?
That's another critique that I hold against Rema as regards this album. There's nothing like Afro Rave, my brother. Like, there was an interview he had with Apple Music. Someone asked him about Afro Rave. He couldn't even explain it. He was explaining his ability to make hits. Because there's nothing like that. When you look at even this album critically, like Rave and Roses, are there Rave records on this album? Yes. There are records that could really get the party jumping on this album. Like Are You There? Rema. Those records could really set the party up. Carry even. Right? But is that enough to say that's Afro Rave? Bro, those records are dancehall records. They are dancehall records and bashment records. And raga. There is nothing like Afro Rave, my brother. When you create genre, we will let you know. There is nothing like that. Everybody, I understand the problem with artists. Artists need to be narcissists for them to be able to succeed. I've said it several times. Like, you need to believe that you are the greatest ever. Bro, do you know what it takes for you to put out something for millions of people to consume? Potentially. Your confidence has to be out of here, and you have to believe that thing is the greatest. So they need to believe that they are creating something special. And that has just snowballed into this idea of everybody wants to create a genre. Fella that created a genre, my brother, music was in its infancy at the time. So it was easy for someone to conceive something new. Now it's very hard. Even Travis Scott that is making records that some people have been classifying as trippy, it's still trap music. Bro. So where is Afro Rave? Quit that thing. Let's continue. Until he creates Afro Rave, it might. Maybe we'll see a new genre. But now, on this album, there's nothing like Afro Rave. Nothing.
What's your favorite track of the album?
I don't know yet, but it's been changing. Changing. What's yours?
For now, Addicted.
Oh, wow.
You just clicked the name.
Yeah, Addicted is a really good record. I think sonically, it's probably the most balanced record on the album. There's a lot of balance. The hook was great, the hook was great, the hook met the expectation from the opening sequence. Fantastic record. I think musically, it's probably the most excellent track on the album. Musically. It has no flaws, zero flaws. Yeah.
How do you think this album is going to age?
I think it's going to age like fine wine, bro. I think it's going to age really well. Like, away from all the flaws and the Afro Raves and the lack of collaboration, I think we are going to see more collaborations as we go forward, right? But this album is going to age really well. Because for the simple fact that it has a lot of good records. Like, most of the records on this album are good. Mara feels like a filler. Runway has filler tendencies. But even those records are going to have their moments. Some people are going to like them. Even though I can call them fillers, I can still see the positives in those two records, right? So I can't explicitly call them fillers. So this album is going to be really good, and that's factual.